Alrighty, welcome to the next game between AliFoRiA playing the blue Terran against one playing the white Protoss. Okay, another PVT. Well, this time I'm casting the previous PVT I was playing. We were having some fun with the AliFoRiA, so I was Protoss, he was Terran. It's my best matchup, so managed to win there. But AliFoRiA was just trying some new stuff with mass vultures in the beginning. I think vultures only work on low maps. I mean, of course, yeah, they can work on fastest map as well if they are microed correctly and used in a big number. But in the beginning, if you only have a few of them, then they do not really do that much wonder they do on low maps. Okay, so this time one is the playing Protoss. He chose that race, and he seems to be starting off with a normal opening as regards him goes. So a choke right here, and then most probably will go on with 2 extra nexus. Or one at least, but most of the time he's doing that with 2. So he's scouting the map, and Eli is staying in his base, making the 3 racks opening. He's not scouting, he just needs the resources to do this. And then once the racks are down, then they will start with the scouting, and then one will discover his base right now. So he knows that Eli is a T, as he didn't choose, so he was starting off as random. Okay, one interesting placement. Well, this might look strange for the first time, but if you come to think of it, this is a good option. If you start in a middle base, then it's good to have your extra here, because if you place it right here, then it could be shot by a tank from here, and then especially in AliFoRiA is a Terran now, so he has the chance to go up here and then place some tanks here to shoot the cannons. So it's really a problematic spot. Most fastest players don't like middle spots. These bases are easier to drop, easier to... So in these locations you can easily lose your main, for example, even here, so even in these middle bases. So yeah, it's a good option to place your extra nexus right here. Right, Academy is coming up for range and stim. Okay, we will see now factories being made, and these 3 racks will be only used to produce marines. In this situation, when a Protoss player goes a choke, then Terran player of course has time to get extra 2 command centers, because well, the Terran player is safe, because if a Protoss player went choke, then it would mean they are messing up and not doing any crazy rushes. They still could go with a fast river drop, but Terran still has time for extra CCs, because most of the times drops come in around the 6-minute mark, so they have still time to get an eBay and make some turrets for that. So this is the time to make extra command centers, and then go on with a factory, and then a quick vessel for detection against Dark Templars. And the tanks will be used to shoot down the choke, just in the case of TVZ. So when a Protoss player is opening up with a choke, then the game gets similar to TVZ, so the Terran player uses the tanks to break the choke, and then after that he can just mass and go inside, or at least try to go inside. The only difference is that Protoss players only make just a few cannons. They don't make as many cannons as a Zerg player does with sunken colonies, so Zergs always make thousands of sunkens. Alright, now Ellie's messing up, building up economy and turrets. Okay, that turret placement is okay. I will build that in the middle of the choke, but Dark Templars can easily flow in here. But well, Ellie just played a few games against Von, so he knows his timings and strategies by and large. So he knows that his Von is not really going on with DT rushes like I do most of the time. So he's safe for that, but he just made one turret right there. On the other hand, one is doing the same thing, getting his economy up and adding gateways. So both guys are going on with a big macro game. Yeah, in TVP, Terran is not rushing anywhere. In this matchup, they just have to sit in their bases, get a choke up, get economy, and then after that they can just try to come outside if they are not tagged. Okay, so the drop was well, it was a nice try. Ellie didn't get many of Von's probes. He could just shoot a bunch of them, but this was a nice try. You can do this as a Protoss player, sorry, as a Terran player against a Protoss one, because in TVP the Terrans do not necessarily expect a drop from the Protoss players do not necessarily expect a drop from the Terran. In general, Terrans do not really drop. It's not a very common thing. If we think about drops, then Protoss come in our mind, of course, for the first time. You drop the most with Protoss. That's natural. And so Terrans do not really do that, and that's why it can be a surprise for another player to have or being dropped by a Terran. So the DTs weren't really able to come inside because mass bunkers were blocking the way, and this is what you have to do, guys. So if you really want to be safe against the macro Protoss, then this is what you do. You make bunkers, you place your units inside. You don't want to leave them here. If you have mass marines here just by themselves, one storm, and then you can see them in their funeral also. That's it. You want bunkers if you don't want to go on funerals. Yeah, there was one game. Yeah, I remember. It was very long time ago, like 10 years ago maybe, when Pro Hardy, yeah, Pro Hardy was playing against Kuang, aka Noob to Win, aka Super. I don't know what was his name. But anyway, yeah, so Hardy was against Kwong, and then Hardy had like 200 Marines here, and then he just got like two Templar Storms, and all of them were dead. And then Hardy learned from the mistake, because in the next game he was building bunkers all the way here, like AliFoRiA does right now. Okay, so the first attack was not really successful because of the thing I mentioned. Bunkers were all around the place, being filled up with units, so they did their job. and one was not really able to do any serious damage in the choke of Ali. Of course, this is bad for the Protoss. If Protoss is not able to take Terran in the first instance, then after that it becomes very hard, because if Terran player builds up, has mass economy, and has also upgrades, then the Terran army of course beats Protoss Grand Army in the long run. So as I mentioned, this situation is not that bad at the moment. This is a time for the Protoss to find out something cheesy, add some carriers, go on with the recall, try mouse drops. But if they just let Terran grow, just in the case with Zergs, then, well, it's not a good option for them. So right now the second attack is incoming, and that was a nice storm, so he managed to kill yeah, some of his marines, but still these bunkers are up, and they are filled with marines, so there, and also some fire bats, which is a nice option against the Protoss. So they are doing their job, but Ali doesn't really have SCVs here. He should just bring these, they are really busy doing nothing, so he should bring them here to repair these bunkers, otherwise he will have a big trouble, or be in a trouble. Reinforcements are coming, so he really needs to focus on this defense. As regards upgrade goes, one didn't really deal with the upgrades, so he hasn't done it yet. While AliFoRiA has 1-1, so he has million defense upgrade, which is really nice, so he has quite a big advantage right here. Okay, so I'm not really seeing. Yeah, okay, yeah. So he's making the upgrades right now. 2 forges are there for the upgrades. So he's lagging a bit behind with upgrades. He still didn't research anything, and AliFoRiA is just upgrading more. He will have a better army in this aspect. And he has covered his main, so he flew another command center on his main, which is a nice option against mutabombs, carriers, scouts, raids, and so on. Okay, then the next wave of attack is just incoming, and at least defense is, yeah. They're not, so the defense is not perfect at the moment, but he has just taken new tanks with him. So right now they have joined the defense, and right now these tanks can easily protect the base. Right. So the problem here is that once units were not really held together correctly, and zealots were naturally supported by goons, and once zealots are dead, then the goons are they become worthless against tanks. So you need lots of goons behind the zealots, because the zealots can take damage, they consume damage, and then the goons can shoot the tanks. But without zealots, the goons cannot really do anything against the tanks. Right, so making use of this failed attack, Ali just came outside. He left his base because he was maxed out. So once the Terran player is maxed out, then it's time for them to do something, and do not let Protoss to become cheesy, getting mass carriers or recalls and so on. So they need to keep busy the other player. And this is not really the picture you want to see as a Protoss player. You don't want this picture on your wall. above your bed before going to sleep. So, joking apart, when Terran player just builds up tanks right in your entrance, then it's a no-go. So it means you are inside forever. With only ground units, you won't really be able to come outside. You need big storms, but you can't make that because you get EMP'd, like one got. So to break this, well, it's very hard. Unless you have like 500 APMs, 20,000 minerals and pumping zealots constantly and then running them on the tanks. That's your only chance. But anyway, you need carriers. You can't do that without carriers. And right now, Yvonne is not really having stargates, so he can rely on ground units at the moment. He needs Reavers, Templars, and Mass Zealots to break this, and it's still difficult in that case too. Too many SCVs, so yeah, it's an option. Like, okay, Ali just read my mind, because I just wanted to say that besides shooting your own SCVs, you can just select like 24 of them and then just go on with a stack attack, so they can be used. So right now you can see the stack attack is on and off. So the tanks were kind enough to kill those. So AliFoRiA didn't really manage to make use of the SCVs, but right now he still managed to bring some of them, and so yeah, losing a robot to SCVs, it's quite fun, but soon these zealots will of course clean this attack. But yeah, now Ali has some more supplies. But he won't really need that extra supply, because he's in his entrance, in one's entrance with tanks, so he's not really fearing carriers, so he knows that with his ground units he soon will be able to break this base and force one to give up the game up. More tanks are joining the attack, supported by some ghosts. Okay, so status is off. These tanks became paralyzed for a moment. But the problem is that there are still quite a few units here, especially under a defense matrix. It's almost impossible to kill them. So that was a nice move. One is really trying hard, he's really putting everything in the units, he's really trying to reproduce zealots and then go on with the tanks, but Ali is not really sieging up, so those zealots become quite useless. Zealots mostly have a chance against sieged up tanks, because being unsieged, these tanks can easily kill them. So one is just trying to gather up some more units, his last units, and then we'll just try one last attack, but I think he just knows, yeah, deep inside he feels that this won't really be possible, but he'll try to make one last attack, and then I think he will just GG now. Yep, that's it, GG.